Hello, everybody. Welcome to Design Night. Here we are. It's May. It's Design Night. Welcome to the gallery. We're so happy you're here for our event, Making It. You know, the maker movement is really fascinating. It's this exciting realm. People all over the world are engaging with making. DIY, do-it-yourself, has been around forever. But with new tools, new technologies, there's this real resurgence of DIY activities. We good? Okay. So what yesterday was oily machines and creaky old machines, today is being joined by computers and high-tech equipment. So with simple and affordable 3D design software, giving people access to digital fabrication services, desktop 3D printers, makers are turning their home offices into home factories. And what that's doing is taking creative expression and manufacturing and completely changing it as we know it. It's a really exciting time. And communities of makers span the globe. The digital nature of making in today's world, it's highly collaborative. So whether people are working on whimsical projects like the googly eyes, did you see the googly eyes out there? Kind of wild. From everything from that to life-saving technologies in the healthcare industries, makers today are creating innovations that really make the world a better place, whether that's aesthetically better or saving lives and everything in between. And makers like to have fun too. So this is not my normal coat, a special lab coat here made by Proto Tank, Adam and his team right here. So this is kind of fun. What's your favorite color? Right? Like, this is fun. But it's not only fun, this is actually really a helpful tool. So for those of you who maybe are having a drink tonight, you know, if you're not sure how much you've had to drink, you can come find me later and we can check. Uh-oh. Clearly too much to drink. And so I won't be up here all night. We'll actually get to someone who is going to talk about interesting things. So of those maker communities, lots of maker communities out there. One of the strongest maker communities is at TechShop. And we're thrilled tonight to have Mark Hatch. He's a CEO and co-founder of TechShop. He's our speaker. Mark has a very interesting background. He's a former Green Beret, so be on your toes. He's held many executive positions focused on innovation, disruptive technology, and entrepreneurship at both large and small firms like Avery Dennison, Kinko's, HealthNet. He's a real leader in the maker and open innovation movements. For the 2 or 3 of you out there who don't know what TechShop is, it's an exciting retail platform that's focused on radically democratizing access to tools, information, resources, and community that are needed to design and innovate. The company is crushing barriers to innovation and building new and exciting pathways for the creative class to do what they do best. And what's that? Create. So TechShop has operations in Menlo Park, San Francisco, San Jose, Detroit in partnership with Ford Motor, Austin in partnership with Lowe's Home Improvement, Pittsburgh in partnership with DARPA, and soon in Phoenix, Arizona in partnership with ASU, and many other locations in the planning stages. A great place. If you haven't visited the one here, for those of you in San Francisco, go do that. It's super cool. And without further ado, I will turn it over to my friend and excellent drinking buddy, Mark Hatch. Hold on. Blow on there. Oh, he's clean. He's clean, ready to go.
Something's definitely wrong. All right, let's get started. So, Mark Hatch, former Green Beret, which is actually quite useful tonight because I am going to encourage you and ask you to radicalize. So this is San Francisco, we're close to Berkeley. We are at the beginning of an entirely new revolution, and it does require us to get passionate and excited and to participate. So at the end of this talk, I'm going to ask you to radicalize and participate in a particular way, not just the group here, but also the folks online. I'm also, throughout the presentation, just for reminiscence sake, going to ask you to say the word boom, because sometimes the stuff that happens in a tech shop is just so amazing, or the maker spaces, you just have to elicit a response. So to get started, on 3, I want to hear the whole audience say boom. So 1, 2, 3. Boom! Yeah, baby, let's get started. Okay. So welcome to the Maker Revolution. There's some important things that are happening. First of all, I want to talk, I'm going to talk a little bit about the strategy, what's going on. I'm going to talk about what's different today than what it used to be maybe just 10 or 15 years ago. And then we're going to get to the fun part, which are the stories, which is going to help make it concrete on, oh yeah, this is actually happening. So first of all, to use Dr. Richard Florida's work, there's something on the order of 40 million people in the creative class. I've co-opted that and said makers. It turns out they live in the major cities in the US and around the world. They tend to aggregate. They like to be next to one another. They like to hang out in the evenings, and they like to work together. They also happen to control $470 billion in disposable income. And I love that word, disposable income, because that's what they're doing with it, right? They're buying McMansions and Frappuccinos and urban assault vehicles. And if we could get them to spend some of that money just a little more rationally, thinking about the future, they could potentially change the world. It is the creative class. These are the folks, including you, who have access to the right kinds of tools to be able to make things change. So disposable income is specifically, right? That's not food, that's not housing, that's not education, that's not healthcare. That's the excess. That's the stuff that we're using to buy a bunch of Frappuccinos. So lots of cash is actually available to, for the maker movement and for the maker revolution. And as anybody knows who's trying to run a revolution, as I was trained as a former Green Beret, it takes cash, it takes tools. And so that's one of the things we have to do, is we have to arm the creative makers in the world in order to create that revolution. Clay Shirky, NYU, right, wrote a recent book called it's called The Creative Surplus. No, it's not. What was it called? It was called The Cognitive Surplus. I renamed it The Creative Surplus. He states that Americans alone spend something on the order of 300 billion hours a year watching television. There's a creative pursuit that will change the world. Not. So what would happen if we took just a little bit of that 300 billion hours, and I trust that the creatives aren't spending that much time watching television, but I know they're spending some portion. So if we could take a little bit of that disposable income, take just a little bit of that time that we're spending watching television, and redeploy that in maker spaces, hacker spaces, redeploy that in our living rooms by using the software from amazing companies like Autodesk. The software is easy to use. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. They can change the world. So that's one set. We actually have the resources. We have the cognitive surplus floating around in the US and around the world. We have the monetary capability to redeploy in a way that can change the world. What we now need are the means, and that is what really has changed in the last 10 years. The tools that we're using at TechShop, and where's Jim in the back? Jim, wave at me. Jim's the founder and chairman. It was his idea. He was way ahead of the curve. Thank you, Jim, for my job. I appreciate it. Most importantly, thank you for thinking through and actually having the entire platform rather than just small pieces of it. Just having a single 3D printer is not enough. You actually need a large set of tools. But here's what's interesting. These tools are dirt cheap compared to where they used to be, right? We call it capitalism because the tools of the Industrial Revolution were so expensive that individuals couldn't possibly afford to own them. They had to be institutions, government institutions, research institutions, universities, large companies. We had to do that in order to get the benefits of the Industrial Revolution going. But we call it capitalism because it's capital. It's a lot of money to build these tools. Well, that's not true anymore. The Japanese came into the tool and die industry about 20 years ago and crushed the US manufacturers, drove down the cost of the basic tools of the Industrial Revolution by 50%. The Chinese returned the favor about 10, 15 years later, driving those core tools down by another 50% or more. We're buying the basic tool, just the mill and the lathe, for about 20% of what it used to cost. But more importantly, you attach that to a computer, and we then gain Moore's law. So these tools are literally about 5% of what they cost just 20 years ago. And then Jim's amazing invention was, and let's just open it up for everybody, so instead of having to buy all these tools, which would have still cost you about $1 million, but it wasn't 10 million, it's now only $1 million, and now with this model, you can get access to our space for $125, or as I like to say, for a bad coffee addiction, you can now have access to the tools of the Industrial Revolution. You know, 1, 2, 3. That is truly remarkable. The other thing, these tools have gotten way more powerful. The computer numerically controlled machine has allowed it so that you do not have to be an expert in order to get beautiful expert prototypes. You do all the refinement in the software, and then you hit print, and basically you just supervise the machine with your hand hovering over the red thing in case something goes really wrong, right? And you hit the red thing and it stops. It doesn't take an incredible amount of training to be able to learn how to use the most powerful tools the Industrial Revolution has ever created. And then the coup de grace, to keep the Green Beret theme going. Sorry about that. I'll drop it. No, not tonight. The coup de grace here is how easy the software is to use. How many of you had a chance to play with a 123D monster, 123D creature? Oh my goodness. An 8-year-old can build a creature and have a 3D printer printing it out. I mean, that is stunning. They can download some cool graphic off the internet and print it out this afternoon. My wife's allergic to flowers, and so this last week I downloaded a flower in a vase off Thingiverse and printed it out on our little 3D printer and gave it to her. And she was absolutely thrilled. It was the first flower I'd given her in over like 3 or 4 years. That was, yeah, I'm saving money. I also gave her jewelry. I'm making jewelry on the 3D printers too. It's working like a charm. So here's the point, right? The tools are cheap. The tools are powerful. The software is easy to use. We have the cognitive surplus, and we have the money. So what's holding us back? So the movement needs the soldiers. We need the people who can evangelize and let other people know this is not some side venue. This is not some joke. This is not some fad. You know, this is people who tell you this is a fad are going to be famous, just like Bill Gates. You know, the web is a fad. I'll now quote Chris Anderson, a friend, now an advisor, a former editor of Wired, recently at the Long Now Foundation said, and I quote, "If you thought the web was big, I believe this is bigger." And there's a reason for that. Most of us live in physical space. Actually, I think hopefully all of us live in physical space. We don't live online. We live a lot of our life online, but we don't actually live online. And so when you reinvent the entire way of making things, it has an opportunity to impact every industry everywhere in the world. So that's kind of baseline, right? We'll keep going. So we got access to tools, but really what's important is the community. We got all of the other stuff, but what you really need is you need the connection with the marketing person, the connection with the engineer. You need the connection with the person that's just as passionate about your bizarre, fuzzy hat, eyeball, googly thing. You need those people in order to be able to move your project from where you are to where you want to be. Our tagline is build your dreams here. It's not build your stuff, because with community, you can accomplish almost anything. And so when you combine these things, you can change the world. So there's the community piece. Yeah, funding. I got funding, media, and market. So this is another thing that's happened in the last 3 years, right? Everybody here is aware of Kickstarter and Indiegogo, where you can launch some crazy idea and people will give you money to go make it real. Then, you know, the glass, wasn't the Glass-Steagall, it was the SEC Act of 1932. They made that illegal. You can't like go wander around and say, I want to make this and raise money. So it's been illegal to do that kind of activity for over 50 years, and this is a plug for the Jobs Act. Please, SEC, give us the rules. It will really help all the folks in the maker spaces around the world. But funding is now easy. We've got folks at TechShop, which is surprising to me. You know, we got a guy who did this lamp, which I'm not going to show you, but it's amazing. He raised $470,000 on a lamp idea. There's no angel group in the world that's going to give some young kid $470,000 to do a lamp. But the internet will help sell those, and he can make them, and it will fulfill. So funding has gotten easier and cheaper than it has been since I started working. I mean, the first time I had this conversation with an attorney, it's like I was 23 or something like that. my uncle came up with this great idea. It's like, wow, this is fabulous. I'm going to take an ad out in the LA Times. We're going to raise $500,000 and launch the business. And he goes, no, you're not. You do that, you're going to go to jail. It's like, what? I can't advertise that I've got this great idea? No, that's against the law. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Talk to your friends and family and raise the money. It's like, my friends and family don't have any money. Yeah, how does that work? Well, now we've got funding mechanisms. You've got media, you've got social media. Hello, Facebook friends. You've got the ability to reach out and touch somebody, create a community that's interested in your particular project in a way we've never been able to do that before. Again, in the 80s, you'd have to take an ad out in some magazine or an ad in a newspaper. You have to do the radio, or you have to do television. You had mass capability, but you didn't have narrow capability. Now you have the ability to make little tchotchkes and sell them to the narrowest of narrow niches on the planet. We've never had that opportunity before. So what do people make? And I love these. So I'm going to go through a range of things. But here's the hypothesis. I'm going to start with this one. If you give people access to tools of the Industrial Revolution, they can, will, and have changed the world. And I'll show you 5 at the end that have done that. But that's not necessarily the objective. The objective is a personal revolution where you get in touch with your inner maker and you give things away to other people and you enjoy the bond that that creates. It's an emotional, almost spiritual bond. I'm going to go through a range of folks. These are amazing. So this is Tina Albenlax, and she is an accidental entrepreneur. Now, I haven't run into a lot of these, but it happens on occasion. So Tina, in January 2011, made a promise to herself. I am going to learn how to make something this year because I haven't made anything since I was in 6th grade. So she came on site. She took the $60 Introduction to Laser Cutter class. She booked some time on that Friday, but she didn't know what she was going to make. But she just knew that she had to make it in order to keep what she was doing fresh. That evening, it was a Thursday evening, she gets a call from her sister-in-law. Her sister-in-law says, hey, Bobby's going to have a birthday party on Saturday. I want you to come. And Tina goes, got it. Tell me all the names of all the kids, and I'm going to cut cupcake toppers for each of the kids, Bobby, Jane, Jill, Sam, whatever, right? So she came in on Friday, cut those little things out, toll painted them, made them nice and cutesy, and went and put them in all the cupcakes. Well, here's what happens, right? Now, all of the siblings of all the kids that have their own personal cupcake topper want theirs too. So the parents immediately called her and says, well, I need one for my sister, he needs one for the sister and the brother, and by the way, we got a birthday party coming up in a week, can you come along and do some more? And within weeks, she was completely booking out all of her time that she had available on the laser cutter. And then some bright girl or boy came along and said, hey, you should launch this on Etsy. And so she launches an Etsy store and starts researching SEO advertising and how to do this thing on Etsy. And she's doing so well on Etsy that her BlackBerry burns up. Because Etsy was like, we'll just send you a tweet or we'll send you a ping every time somebody buys something. And it's like, it's going off so much, the thing, it just burns out by halfway through the day. She's showing me like 2 BlackBerries because she can't get through the whole day. All of these tweets are coming in. She starts teaching how to do Etsy classes. She's got a CD and she's working on a book. All of this happened because of why? She took one class and discovered the cupcake topper business. Boom. Yeah, I keep forgetting that. So I love Perrin. He's one of the first ones I met in San Francisco. He's a former Chronicle copywriter. And he came over, you can kind of see him fuzzy in the background. He's in his early 60s. He says, I've had a great career in copywriting. I think I'm pretty good at it. I was at Footcone Belding in New York, and I've worked on the client side. I've been on this side. He ended up at the Chronicle, and newspapers isn't a really good place to be these days. So I lost my job as a copywriter. But you know what, Mark? I'm going to remake myself as a jeweler. Wow, that's an obvious jump. And you know what he has? And this is one of his pieces. He's now distributed in mostly museum stores around the U.S. and the world. He does this kind of combination, Bauhaus and some other things. I don't really understand it, but he's got a nice jewelry business going. He's at 62 years old, he decided, I'm going to go do this. And because the access to the tools, access to the software, access to the community are low enough, he was able to remake himself as a jeweler. And you can go to MoMA tonight, if they're still open, and buy his jewelry. Now here's another one. And David is fabulous. This is one of our more famous examples. So David came in and said, I haven't made anything in decades, and so I want to learn how to make something. I'm going to write a column for Make Magazine. It's called Zero to Maker. I don't know how to make anything. He went through his own personal industrial revolution in 90 days. He took like 30 classes. It was stunning. He was there every day, all day, learning how to do all kinds of things. And within the year, look at it, he's a part owner in a robot company. This is a guy who was a sailor. He teaches sailing lessons and writes emails. And he went through his own industrial revolution. He now owns the best, the most successful open platform for underwater vehicles. NASA's gotten involved. He's done stuff with NOAA. I mean, it's a truly remarkable platform. Patrick, say hi. Patrick came in. Absolutely. He's still in San Francisco. He's got his work in San Francisco. So Patrick came in and asked, what classes do I need to take to learn how to use the tools I need to make a dodo case? And 90 days later, he had more work than he knew what to do with. He did, I think it was $3 million in the first year. I won't tell you the rest of the numbers because he's sitting here. He's got 35 employees just down the street, learned how to use the tools that he needed, leveraged the community in an enormous way to be able to get what he wanted out, and is now a very successful entrepreneur. I don't know if you remember this, but I asked you in like that first month, how would you describe yourself, Patrick? And he said, well, technically, I'm a failed entrepreneur. This is my fourth idea this year. And by the way, this is something you need to think about if you're thinking about starting a business. This is the fourth one this year. That was April. So one idea is not a good idea. You need a dozen ideas. You keep plugging away until you find one that works. And the costs are so low now, you can actually do that. You do not have to mortgage your entire future on a single idea. You can do small chunks at it, take multiple ideas, and don't mortgage the house at all because you don't need to anymore. And yeah, this is my favorite slide. Our president carries a dodo case. I'm wearing this. This is another one. This is great. This is an example of a Kickstarter project. It's a beautiful watch. It's $250. Paul Youngblood's this great designer down in San Jose and San Francisco. We needed $15,000. It was a $25,000 raise, and now he owns a watch company. $25,000 was the total that he needed from Kickstarter to launch his company. I couldn't do focus groups for $25,000 when I was at Avery Dennison and HealthNet. He's launching an entire company, finding a market, and delivering the product for less than what it cost me to do the research just a decade ago. We live in an amazing time. Boom. This is the world's fastest electric motorcycle. It was built in Menlo Park. It did 218 miles an hour on the Bonneville Salt Flats. Uses the A123 lithium-ion batteries, carbon fiber frame, the aluminum frame, the carbon fiber fairing, and all the electronic components that they couldn't buy off the shelf, which was most of them because it's an electric bike. They made themselves. You got to love this. I love electric because they are wickedly fast. This thing will take off like a rocket because there's no torque curve if you're a motorhead. This is one of my favorites. That is a jetpack. Andy is working on a jetpack. You know, thank goodness he's working on it because I know General Motors and Boeing isn't. And if I'm going to get a jetpack like I was promised, I'm probably going to end up buying it from Filo Industries. The folks at NASA giggled when I got to this slide, and then they met Andy, and they're now using components that he's designing in their next design for a spacesuit. So, you know, it turns out this Pro-Am definition is a little soft. We've had nanosats. We got one that's actually circling now. We got 3 or 4 more in the works in San Jose. This is Danny Fukuba. He's a 19-year-old kid, head of the robot team at Poway High School a few years ago. Wanted a Segway. His parents wouldn't buy one for him, so naturally he goes online, finds a mentor, builds one himself. Wow. You know, what more do you need? The internet and some ambition, and off you're running. And what I really loved about Danny is somehow he understood the real value would be building the world's first 2-wheeled, self-balancing, 18-mile-an-hour, wait for it, bar stool. A self-balancing bar stool. Yeah, boom. This is an artist that won a $5,000 grant, discovered a $7,000 build, found us, did it for $3,000. So we actually made money instead of losing money. This is Karen. She started a little tchotchke business, put it on Etsy, went from the $60 laser cutter class to hundreds of thousands of dollars on Etsy, selling a range of things into the knitting industry. So I did some homework on that, the knitting industry. How big is that? It's about like $4 billion. That's not bad. You know, if you can get a small piece of a $4 billion market, that's all right. You know, who knew? Well, she knew. She followed a passion, and then she was able to quit her job. Sam was a little bit of an overachiever. I talk about going through your industrial revolution in 90 days. I suggest you start with a laser cutter and do a little piece of jewelry or do a 3D, download something off Thingiverse and print a 3D model. But Sam was like a research chemist somewhere down in the valley, and so his first project was a lunar mining robot. Now that's ambitious. Yeah, so he learned Arduino, learned how to use the mill, built it, and competed at the NASA. They had a big X Prize challenge. He didn't win, but he had a competitive lunar mining robot. This is a remote-controlled video conference telepresence platform. They recently sold to a Swedish company. Roy won't tell me how much he sold it for, but he's on a sabbatical, a 5-year sabbatical. Boom. This is, you'll have to tell me, catch me later some other time. This is a great story, but Michael's actually working on growing gems in his garage. Gem quality diamonds using high pressure and energy, all kinds of fun stuff. And the trick was that was a $125,000 build through the traditional prototyping process. He built it for under $2,000. For $2,000, you can do primary research. For $125,000, you got to take a mortgage out on your home. That's the difference between 20 years ago and today. You can use disposable income to break new ground. That is truly remarkable. So here are the 5 that have changed the world already. Square, hopefully everybody knows about that story here. They got a $3.2 billion valuation. Yep, there's one there. We probably got a half a dozen of them here in the room. That's James McKelvey. He was one of the members. Those are the original 3 prototypes he milled out on one of our mills. And here's the sub-story. It's in the press, but you don't hear a lot about it. James and Jack were turned down the first time they went down the valley and tried to raise money to do this, right? The smartest venture capitalist on the planet turned Jack Dorsey down on what turns out to be a multi-billion-dollar, the first time they saw it. Then James came in, built the prototypes. They went back out, took money. They took $500, $50 each, never returned it, according to a couple of events. Raised $10 million just like that in their Series A, and then the rest is history. They have 300 employees right down the street here. I think they're on track to have like 1,000 employees by the end of the year. They'll do $30 billion in transactions. You now see their ads on television. This company was started 3 years ago, couldn't get money because they didn't have a prototype. They have the prototype. Boom. This is Phil Hughes. This is one of the first people I met in Menlo Park about 5 years ago. That is the world's most efficient data cooling center solution. Emerson Electronics eventually licensed it from him. Again, he won't tell me how much money he's making. This is a nitrogen detection device. It was named one of the top 5 agricultural startups this last year. They've raised $20 million over the last 3 years. They did 4 production prototypes in about 14 weeks. Went from 2 employees to 10 employees in that same amount of time. Got $2 million in their Series A. It's considered, it may help reduce the size of the dead zone at the end of the Mississippi, so it's not a bad thing to do for us. The world's cheapest drip irrigation system, and then one of my favorites, this has got a lot of press, Embrace, the baby blanket, came famously out of the D School, but you know where they made it? They made it at TechShop, at the makerspace. More importantly, Naganon ran into a lifelong chemist who, after interactions with him, donated the core IP. It's on track to save 100,000 babies in the next 5 years. That's what the community does in this space. So, I'm hoping to launch you on a radicalization trajectory, and it's not going to be painful. It's actually pretty easy. All I want you to do is, hopefully like in the next 30 days, and you could tonight just go out there and make something. But what I want you to do is I want you to make something for somebody else, and you need to think through what is it that I could give them that would mean something to them. And if you do that, if you make that something and you give it to them, you will experience an emotional rush that you don't get any other way. You don't get it when you buy something and give it to somebody. It's not the same kind of bond. And so if you will just agree with me, if you will please do that, and then talk about that experience that you have when you give that thing that you've made away to somebody that you care about, you will start your path down the radicalization path and join the maker revolution, because it's easy, it's cheap, it's powerful. And you might change the world, or you'll at least change your world. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. That was great. Thanks, Mark.
Absolutely.
Ready to radicalize. Hang on just a second. Got a few things to cover, and we're going to do a raffle for Maker Faire tickets in just a second. So first thing, want to send some birthday wishes to Anita Metal right here. And here's for the Department of Little Known Facts. If you have 23 people in a room, this is called the birthday paradox. There's a 50% chance that two of them have the same birthday. If you have 57 people in a room, there's a 99% probability that two of them have the same birthday. So it might not be May 2nd, but 99% chance that two of you have the same birthday here. Anybody May 2nd birthday? Nick Cottrell's not here, but Kim's husband, his birthday is today. Anyway, happy birthday. So lots of fun still to have. Bars are still open. Lots of things to make. You can check out the Embrace infant warmer that Mark just showed. It's an exhibit that's over here in the gallery. You can make fun things. Next design night, June 6th. Faster, stronger, techier. It's all about athletics. And tickets go on sale Monday at noon, and it will sell out quickly. So get your tickets right away on Monday at noon. So without further ado, we're going to raffle off. You guys can come on up. Mark's going to pick 3 winners. Hopefully you folks in simulcast land are listening to us as well. Okay, and the first winner is
437-032.
437032. Winners must be present. 437032. This could take a long time. A little entertainment for you while we wait.
Hey.
Okay, next, 437032. Anyone? Okay, next one up.
Number 2. 437. Wow, there's a pattern here. 131.
437131, we have a winner! So we're giving away pairs of tickets to Maker Faire, which is on May 18th and 19th, and these are courtesy of Make Media. Maker Faire is awesome. If you like what you see here tonight, Maker Faire is like this times 1,000, a couple thousand. Yes, I have tickets. Hang out just for a second. We'll go for the next one.
All right.
Last
one.
Well, I think we're going to keep going because 032 is sleeping on the job.
All right. 437042.
437042. Anyone? You got to claim it now or else we're going to keep going. 437042. Yes, winner? Winner! All right. Last call for 437032. 032, going once, going twice, and we're on to another winner.
There we go. And we have 437124.
437124, Jim Newton? No. 124, 437124. Going once, going twice. All right, how about we pick one more, and then of these 3 people who haven't chosen theirs, they can come back, and first one up gets the last pair of tickets. Okay, last one.
437232.
Hey, winner! All right. So congrats to our winners. Enjoy Maker Faire. Thanks again to Make Media for donating the tickets. Have fun and see you next month.